On today's photo moment, we're going to talk about white balance. What the heck is it? Why? How does it work? It's going to be a white balance type of a show. And we're going to talk about iPhone 10 and something with the NAR box because they're just little tidbits that I'm excited about. So that's what we're doing. Good morning and welcome to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment, the first thrice weekly live show here on YouTube, all about photography, video, anything camera related. If it's got a camera on it or attached to it or related to it or met one in a former life, we're good to talk about it here. I'm PhotoJoseph, your host, and it is 9:30 a.m. Pacific time on Friday. We do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific right here at youtube.com/PhotoJoseph. Tune in live if you can. It's really fun because you get to participate in the chit chat here. And if you've got a question or a comment or a statement or something you want me to see, make sure you type at PhotoJoseph. It shows up in red like you can see there. It works out. It's kind of cool. And I will do my best to address your questions. If you have questions that aren't related to the topic at hand, please hold on to those until a AMA show or stick them in a comment later. We try to kind of keep things relatively on topic here. Keeps the show a little bit shorter. So first topic, iPhone 10. Well, that's not a 10, that's a 7. iPhone 10. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm, clearly an idiot. And decided that at midnight tonight, this morning, I was going to order that thing. So here's what I did. I'm sitting there, I got my phone and my iPad, launched the App Store, and I'm alternating leading up to midnight, because just in case it goes early, quitting an app. I have no idea. Is the App Store, it says something great is coming or some crap like that. And I don't know if it's just going to boom refresh or if I have to actually leave the app and come back or if I should quit the app. So I'm playing it safe. Like quit the app, relaunch it, count to 5 on the iPad, quit the app, relaunch it, back and forth like this. Loads on the iPhone first. Great. I know exactly what I'm doing. What do you do first? I think you pick your provider. Well, iPhone 10 pre-order, T-Mobile, white, silver, whatever, 256, and I decided I'm going to go for the 256 because I don't think I need that much space, let's be honest. I mean, the 128 is probably plenty, but I figured more likely that the 256 will come on the day of. That's my theory, so I can go for that. Add the AppleCare, because it's a freaking $1,150 iPhone. I want some insurance on this thing, so add the AppleCare, the price, and add to cart, Touch ID, boom, ordered. Congratulations, your iPhone will be with you in 2 to 3 weeks. Say what? So November 3rd is the launch date. That's 1 week from today, whatever the heck, what is today? October 27th. November 3rd is the launch date. Mine says November 10th to November 17th. What? Like, my receipt says midnight 02 when I got the receipt. I was as fast as you could fastest be. How is it possible that mine is that much delayed? I'm like, I'm so bummed. And it's not that I care about having it first, it's that I care about doing an unboxing here before everybody else on YouTube does one. That's why I wanted to get it early. So now I'm really depressed. So I called T-Mobile because I saw a couple friends of mine. At first I thought, well, okay, maybe this is just because like they're playing it safe and they're telling everybody that. And then this morning, I see a couple of friends post on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, little screenshots of theirs showing a delivery date of the November 3rd. I'm going, are you kidding me? So I don't know if it's because of the size of the color or the T-Mobile that I ordered or what, but man, that sucks. One of my friends even ordered it from Verizon, and his is going to come on the day of. How does that work? So I called T-Mobile this morning. Talked to her. I have a business line at T-Mobile. Talked to the business rep there. She goes, I've been in here since 3 o'clock this morning. I've placed over 1,000 iPhone 10 orders. The first call I got today was some guy who bought 20 of them, one each for his employees. Nice boss, right? So Ryan's going, nice boss. So yeah, and she said that their system said between November 3rd and November 10th, so it might have come sooner on there, but I didn't want to risk the double order for a maybe, and I thought, forget it. When it comes, it comes. So we'll see what happens. So let's see now what you guys are saying about your iPhone 10 orders. I know a couple of you already said that you ordered one. Brent says you're selling your GH5s and moving to all iPhone 10 shoots. Hey, why not, right? No, I still think you get a couple advantages here. Brent did the same thing with the App Store. Brent will have yours on November 3rd. Well, Brent, where do you live? Do you want to fly here and do an unboxing? That could be fun. AppleCare is delayed due to manufacturing entitlements. Yeah, great, thanks. Wouldn't that be because I ordered AppleCare, that's why it delayed it? Wouldn't that just be the... Oh well, what are you going to do? All right, I think we'll get to this. We might not if I run out of time. There's a little upgrade feature I want to show you on here, but it's not critical. I'm going to do another show around this thing later. That's the NAR box. If we don't get to it, we'll get back to it another day. Brent's in Los Angeles. We should talk. Okay, so what is this still doing? Doesn't matter. Let's talk about white balance. So white balance has been a topic a variety of times. We've talked white balance and what white balance is and means and so on. But I'm going to start from just a very basic, and then we're going to talk about some tech and products behind it, and I'm going to show off a box of toys that I got that Ryan's going to have to bring me because I left it sitting out there. White balance. If you're shooting JPEG, getting the white balance is super critical, right? Because you can shift it, but you are degrading the image at the point as soon as you start shifting it, just like when you do anything else. So we're going to assume that you're going to not shoot JPEG, you're going to shoot RAW. When you shoot RAW, in theory, you can adjust the white balance all day long. It's non-destructive, and it's basically just retranslating the file, and you can correct your white balance. And as long as your white balance is within a reasonable range, it's off by a few thousand degrees, whatever, it's going to be fine. But if it gets too far off, it really doesn't work out that well. So you've got modes like auto white balance in your camera, which, let's be honest here, work really, really well. On the GH5, there's an auto white balance and an auto white balance C. That's a cool one. It's cooler skin tones. I'm actually going to do a whole show around that, although I don't think it'll be live. I think it'll be one I record just to show the difference in a variety of situations, do the little side-by-sides. Because I think it's an interesting thing to see, and it's kind of hard just at first glance to see the difference. It's very subtle, but it might be nice. So anyway, we'll do that on another show. But you have the ability to custom white balance. Now you can do that by dialing in the degrees Kelvin or by taking a picture of something white, which is great. And that allows the camera to say, right, this is a known neutral subject. And when we talk about white balance, what it really means is neutral. It's not that it's white, it's neutral, meaning your red, green, and blue values are all the same. So whether that's 255, 255, 255, or 100, 100, 100, it doesn't matter. As long as they're the same, you have a neutral image. And this is, of course, when you're looking at a neutral thing, whether it's a piece of white paper or a gray card or so on. So you guys have seen me do a bunch of white balance things around this little guy here, this little Lumu Power. Unfortunately, not terribly successful. I was doing them, and I've done a show before on using this as a white balance. Now this is the card. This is one of these little pop-up. I love this thing, by the way. You got it. This is just like super awesome to have. This is a white balance and focus checker. But I've done a show before, we'll link to that up here, where I prefer to use this for white balance, because when you're using pure white for white balance, if it's overexposed, then the camera can't go any higher than 255, 255, 255. So if you were in super blue or red or green, and it would measure out that way, and then you bring it down to gray, and you go, oh, the blue is spiked or whatever. You don't see that if you're doing white. So I prefer to do gray. Now, there are some debates about this, but as long as it's neutral, That's really what matters. When I did the tests with this thing, this is the Lumu that plugs into your iPhone, and it's awesome. The tests weren't accurate. I was comparing to custom white balancing in the camera, and they blue shifted. The company said, hey, that's not supposed to happen. Send us the unit back. They sent me a brand new one. This is the new one. Tested that, came up the same way, and they said, okay, maybe it's your gray chart. That would be this thing. They said maybe, because this is old. I've had this for quite a few years. Maybe it's shifted. It's shifted towards blue, and hence or I guess away from blue, and therefore your white balance is looking that way. So finally, I got around to doing another round of tests. I did this last night. And I'm not going to publish these because there's no point. It's exactly the same results. I did the tests using my Colorchecker Passport. This white checker is not pure white. It's gray, but it's a lighter shade. You can see it's not pure white, but it's not as dark of gray as this thing. But this is, that's the money, right? This is where you're going to do your white balance check. Identical results to what I had before. When I set the calibration through the camera, look at it in Lightroom, measure it with the eyedropper, it's perfect. It's 58, 58, 58, 58.2, 58.1, 58.2. Like, it is just spot on. With this, sadly not. So I think that is the end of life for the Lumu. Sad to say, sorry to say. Like I said, I'm not going to bother showing you the new results because they are the same as what we had. Oh well, that's what it is. Bernstein is saying you need to get one of those gray pop-up cards. Product link that below. We will absolutely put that link down below. They're all over the place, but yeah, we'll put a link to one down below. It's a cool product. I really like it. I use it a lot. And for a lot of things, like you just need a quick little block the light coming from somewhere or whatever. It's handy, and it folds up so small. It comes in a tiny little bag. I don't even know who makes this one, but anyway, doesn't matter. We'll get a link to it out there. Dave Dill Studio saying, I'm finding using Kelvin values and checking the image on the GH5 screen is giving you the best white balance results. Interesting. So that's, what he's talking about is, let's take a look at this real quick. You can, let me plug this into here, and I'm going to show you what we're talking about here as far as custom and Kelvin and so on. So I'll pop this guy up. Now, this is going to be a little bit tricky because I actually need light to be shining on this thing, so I've got to do this. I'm going to put this kind of sideways and put the camera this way and hopefully be able to see everything. I hope this is going to work. And let me just turn on the menu so you guys can see the menu out there. And let's set a basic photo style back to normal. Natural photo style, and I need to turn my menu system back on because I turned that off because I need that for another part of what I'm going to do today, to have that off. But for now, let's turn this on, and where's the camera? Why isn't it? Oh, I guess I don't have a preview up for that. Nope, that's not it either. That's interesting. Why isn't the camera coming up there? Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. It's outputting 4K. The system can't do the 4K. It doesn't like the 4K. All right, 1080p. Now it should be syncing. Now it should be. Did I plug the right one in? Sorry, guys. I was only kind of half planning on doing this, and then you mentioned that, and I thought, well, this sounds like a good idea. Why am I not seeing my output? In, on, recording control off, down convert 1080p. Let's just turn it off and back on. That's not cool. What else is happening here in the comments? Bernstedt can't type today. Well, that's okay. I can't use my camera today, apparently. So we are even Steven. Let's put this up here while you guys are doing that. What? Why isn't that? Oh, ha! HDMI cable wasn't plugged all the way in. How clever is that? There we go. Now it's up. Okay. So here's what we're looking at. Here is the camera view. If I want to do white balance, so we're looking at the white chart here. It actually looks a little overexposed, doesn't it? I guess it's just, oh, well, yeah, it doesn't matter, whatever. Let me bring up the color part of this. So if you were to look at the colors, you can see what the colors look like. There's the Colorchecker passport. We're going to come back to this later on. If you're doing values for video, you've got your black, gray, and white. That's 40 IRE, by the way. I finally found that out. And this, okay, I told you, it's going to be a variety show. If you look on the X-Rite website, nowhere does it tell you what these values are, except one place I finally found a reference that this middle one is 40 IRE, which if you have, this is the video Colorchecker, this is the photo one, right? Yeah, this is the photo one, and yeah, so that's the photo one, that's the video one. That middle gray there is 18% gray, photography gray, which happens to be 40 IRE. I didn't realize that. I thought it was 50. So anyways, 40 IRE. So that's good. So now I know that. But then it's like pure white, pure black. Turns out I finally get them to cough up some information. They send me this chart that is like the most complicated chart I've ever seen in my life. And if I'm reading it right, this is 95 IRE. 95, not 100. And this is 15? No, I don't remember. Anyway, it's not pure white, pure black. It's like, can't you just publish this information? X-Rite, you guys got to deal with that a little bit. Anyway, okay, so this thing, let's go back to the white balance. Sorry, I know I told you all over the place today. Let's go back to the white balance here. I'll put this on to the camera here so you can see it. We're just going to manual focus so it doesn't bounce around on me, and close enough. Okay, so you can see this is looking fairly white-ish. Let me go to the white balance here, and we're just going to do a custom. Totally custom. So I go into one of these 4 custom slots, and we go select white, and make sure you got white in the center of the box. You hit the set button, takes a picture, and boom, it resets the white balance, and now we have perfectly neutral, lovely, lovely white. If we go back into the white balance setting and we go through the different presets, you can see how that affects the white tones on here. More or less dramatic depending on where you are. And if we go into one of these Kelvins, you have 4 presets for Kelvin, you can go in and you can dial this up or down totally custom. So you can make this as cool or warm as your little heart desires. You can also, and this is really, really cool, you can also go into any of these modes where you see the little color chip chart up there. So let me just go into straight up auto white balance. And let's say that auto white balance is great. However, I like it to be a little bit cooler or warmer or whatever. You hit the adjust button and it brings up this little chart, which you can then drag around with your finger on the screen or using the joystick. And you can say, oh, I like my whites to be a little more that way, a little more that way, whatever it might be. Or if you're doing super, super precise calibration, this might help you get it super, super precise. So all these different kind of tools. Now I'm going to actually in a moment here, I'm going to take the output from this camera and feed it into the Ninja where I can get a vector scope on, and then that camera is going to look at the Ninja and you're going to see what happens as I change some of these settings on the chart, which is really kind of interesting. I'm really digging getting into the vector scope and totally grokking exactly where the whites are falling and so on. That's all just information. So Burns, I think, was saying that you like to dial in the Kelvin, degrees Kelvin. That's great. There's no right or wrong way to do it, just as long as you get it right or you get it to the way you want it to be. And this is another one of those things that's worth pointing out, worth mentioning. let's say that you're shooting in a really warm colored room, like indoors in your home, living room at night. You know, you got that like dim light, just that really warm glow, and you go and you shoot a picture. And if you were to do a custom white balance, if you took your chart and did it, everything would look very cold. And it's not that the color temperature has gone cold. The color temperature is actually now accurate. But the problem is that the lighting that you had was very warm. Your memory of the room is very warm. And so when you look at the pictures, you're going, that's not what the room looked like. So accurate white balance is not always right white balance. Sometimes you want something a little bit warmer or cooler because that's what you remember, that's what you prefer, whatever. So you can change it. In still photography, when you're shooting raw, you can change it after the fact, non-destructively. In video, unless you're shooting raw video, which hardly anyone is, you can still change it after the fact, but any change is going to be destructive. Not to say that we can't do color grading all day long, especially if you're shooting in Vlog and or log or whatever your camera you have, and have all kinds of flexibility, but it is still destructive to a degree. Anyway, so there's a little chip chart thing. You can drag that around and change the color on there, which is kind of cool. So that's that. So I wanted to kind of show that thing on there. Now, what I want to do, let's take a look at the comments real quick. What's IRE? Burns Tech is asking. Okay, IRE, sorry. IRE, what does it stand for? I forget what it actually stands for. Anyway, it's a gray level for video. It has to do with broadcast standards, 0 being pure black, 100 being pure white. And back in the day when television first started, you couldn't broadcast at 0 IRE or at 100. Those things would be clipped, they blew out for whatever reason, technical limitations of broadcast at the time. Today's digital broadcast on digital televisions, we have the full gamut. But back in the day, there was a floor that, I'm gonna get my history wrong, but I think it was 15 was the lowest black, and is it 90? 85, 90 was the highest white, something like that. We were constrained, right? You couldn't get really bright whites, you couldn't get really dark blacks. And so the blackest black was actually quite above, the whitest white was actually quite below, and that's how the cameras were calibrated. By the time I got to broadcast, it looked good. Today, though, we don't have that limitation. We can go full 0 to 100. So when you're doing a measurement, when you're measuring out the exposure for video, you want to have those black and white levels matching, and it's really important. Let's just do that. I mean, this is kind of getting off of white balance, but what the heck. So I'm going to this chart here. I'm going to point the camera at it. I'm going to go back to my standard white balance, on my custom one. Let me make sure I got a good white balance in there. I don't remember which preset I used, so let's just go back to this real quick. Let's choose this custom white balance, adjust, not adjust, wrong button. Not Kelvin, that's not what I wanted. Here we go. Adjust, let's reset that adjustment and select white set, boom. Okay, there's my custom white balance, so that is now accurate. That is the theory. Yep, that is now an accurate white balance. So now, let's go to this chart, and let's get this lined up and not have a reflection of my hand in there would be good. That bottom one is a shiny black, and that's designed to look, I don't know, it's designed to look blacker than black. I'm not really sure what the point of that thing is. In fact, let me do this. I don't like it picking up reflections, so I'm going to take this little black kind of velvety cloth thing. I'm going to lay that over the colors and try to get less of a reflection here. There we go, that's better. Okay. Yeah, oops, where'd that move? Come back here. Close enough. All right, so there's that. So now I can look at levels. I can look at the histogram. Oh, I don't think it shows up. The waveform monitor, I mean, on output. No, the waveform monitor on the GH5 doesn't show up on the HDMI output. No, I can't show that here. But there is, my close-up camera is already set up for another one, but there is, you can barely see it down there, is a little tiny waveform monitor that does show up on here, which is great. So you can do calibration in camera. But it's easier if you've got an external display with a bigger thing on it. So now we do this. Now I take this out of here, I plug this into here. I'm getting the same image that you were just seeing is now showing, is now showing up on my Ninja, which I think, no, you can't see that on camera yet, but let me focus this again. I have there we go, that camera pointed at that. So there we go, that's that. Oh, it's looking a little overexposed. That's focused. Oh, let's go back to manual. Okay, that's focused. It's a little overexposed, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. What you want to see here is this waveform monitor. Okay, so now there, you can barely read it, but there it says 100. It's tiny, but that's 100 IRE, and this bottom one is 0. And so as I change the the exposure. So let me say here, I'm going to go into my in manual exposure. I am. As I change the exposure on the camera, what am I, on auto ISO or something? Why is this? Oh yeah, I'm on auto ISO. Bad idea. Okay, let's go to, let's say 800. And, all right, there we go. So that line at the top there, that's my white line. This is my gray line, and raise it up far enough, and there's the black line. So I'm trying to get this one, the gray one should be at 40, and the top one should actually be up to 100, or just under 100. Very curiously, why is it not? That's quite the spread in there. What's going on? That is odd. What am I doing wrong? 100 degrees, 6 ISO, no, ISO's fine. That's really weird. Shouldn't be seeing that much of a spread in here. Huh. Oops, wrong one. As I bring the exposure up, well, now I'm super confused at what the heck's going on in here. Oh, I'm getting such a spread in there. It should not be that much of a spread. I have a feeling that I'm missing something completely daft and dumb here, but anyway, I'm not going to mess with figuring that out right now. That wasn't what I intended to show. That's not what a camera's set up for. But that spread is what you should be seeing. Your white should be near the white, the black at the black, and that gray on the middle point. So there's kind of IRE. IRE, Institute of Radio Engineers. Thank you, Brent, for clarifying that. Measurement of composite video signals. See, super techie, old school stuff, but it's still the measurement standard that we use, even though it has nothing to do with today's digital broadcast. Color profile is saying, yeah, maybe my color profile is set to something weird. Where am I? Yeah, it's natural. I don't know. I have no idea why that's so bizarrely off there. That is very strange. Anyway, doesn't matter. So we want to talk about white balance. So one of the ways that you can do white balance on this is, let me flip this over to the white balance card again and bring this back up on here. Let's go back to this close-up here. And I'm going to take this into the RGB layout. And now you can see I don't care about where these are falling on the chart. All I care is that they're even. And that tells me that I have an accurate white balance. So if I go into the camera and I change the white balance, let me go to, well, you can see as I'm changing through. So there's sunlight, there's what is that, cloud, there's shade. You can see how the white balances are clearly not right. Like, that's obviously not right. And if I take this off, you can see on there that doesn't look right. But you can really see it here. That's clearly not right. So by going in and doing the custom one, where is the custom one that I chose before, that I built before? There it is. You can see that is nice and perfectly even. So that tells me as well that I have accurate white balance. So lots of different ways to measure the white balance out. It's really kind of cool to be able to see that. So then let's take this a little bit farther. So there's white balance. Is there anything else I want to talk about white balance specifically? So white balance on there, we see the RGB on there, we do the custom. Yeah, good. Okay. So now we're going to go to color. And we talked about vector scopes last week when I was dealing with trying to get my Blackmagic camera that you're looking at right now to be as accurate as possible, getting a baseline that's to start with. And you may, if you saw that show, we'll link it up here in case you haven't seen it, but if you saw that show, one of the problems, I don't call it a problem, but one of the limitations that I had was when I'm looking at my vector scope, which I'm about to show you, I could not move the individual arms. That's called secondary color control, and I confirmed in Blackmagic this camera doesn't do that. Okay, that's fine. Neither does the GH5. But what's still interesting is to see how the different color profiles on the GH5 or any camera that you have affect the colors. And this is a really, really interesting way to be able to see it, and this is why I want to show this to you now. So I need to turn off my menu system. That's partially part of what was screwing things up. Menu display off. Okay, and so now I'm looking at, if you look at the camera view, oh wait, I can't do that, sorry. I took the camera view out. If you look at the, let's see here, focus that again. If we look at the output to here, let's get rid of this color chart now, the color waveform, and let's go for the vector scope. So now the vector scope, now this is where things get really kind of interesting. So we've got on here these points on here. That's red, that's yellow, that's green, that's cyan, that's blue, and that's magenta. And you can see these lines in here, and these lines are measuring this color chip chart. And the big fat line in the middle, that's actually flesh tone. If I turn this off for a moment, come here, go away. This row of colors there, that kind of beige color, those are various flesh tones, and these down here are the standard colors that we want to measure off of. So there's your green, cyan, blue, do magenta and so on and so on. So let me bring this back up. Excuse me. So what you want to see is these lines lined up as accurately as possible. And you can see yellows pointing at yellow, greens pointing at green, cyan's pointing at cyan, and so on. But how close are they? Now what we can do is I can actually super saturate the camera just to make those arms get a little bit bigger, so a little bit easier to see. And I'll do that in a moment. But obviously you don't want your image to be super saturated, but it just gets that line a little bit easier to kind of follow where it is on the dot. But what we want to be able to do is move those individual lines. Okay, I want to take the yellow and put it to here, I want to take the green and put it to here, and so on. You can't do that in camera. This is something you can find, and even not to a complete and total control degree, but you can find this on really, really high-end video production cameras. But this is something you can easily fix in post. So it's only an issue because I'm doing stuff live, trying to get the colors as accurate as possible. If you're doing this, if you're editing, then you can bring it into, like DaVinci Resolve has this really, really awesome system where you can actually just, not quite drag, but you're adjusting the yellow, adjusting the red, and you look at this chart and you go, okay, there, the yellow's in place, red's in place, and so on. My buddy Dave Dugdale has this video course, and hold on, let me check the. I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to send you his the link to it because it's a really interesting course that he shared with me the other day, and where he emailed that to me. Let me open my email here. And I'll find this and I'll show you the webpage for it. But if you want to learn more about color and color correcting in DaVinci Resolve and just understanding this part of the color theory, it's a great course to look at. Excuse me. Dugdale, here it is. Color course, and it is at learningvideo.com. Let me pull up this page. Okay. Go to the Mac. So learningvideo.com, store, and then match. I don't know if I go to store here. Oh boy, a lot of training on here. Okay, we're going to put a link to this down below. Color matching, Sony to Canon. That's what the course is. But in this course, there is a whole thing about how to do color correction that is just really, really interesting. I think I've already got access to it, so you can see it here. But anyway, it's really super interesting. So do check that out. Again, we'll put a link to that down below. But if you want to learn a little bit more about color and so on, then definitely go there. Anyway, so back to this. So now we're looking at get the right camera, there we go. We're looking at what the GH5 is seeing, looking at this color chip chart. And you see this is pretty well aligned. It's not perfect, but it's pretty well aligned. So now what I can do is, let me see here, I'm going to just do this. Let me hide this for a moment. I'm going to turn the menu back on so you can see what's happening here. I have to turn the menu off to do the color work, otherwise you're not going to be able to see what's actually happening. Can I bring the brightness down on this screen? I don't think I can. Display options. No, this is not, no. Oh well, it's just too bright. I was going to bring it down. Anyway, I can go into the color controls, the profile controls. Let's go into here. Oops, wrong one. Go into here, and this is on video, but you'll see the same thing on stills, photo style, and there's natural and monochrome and L monochrome, scenery, and so on. So I'm going to flip through these. I can't have this menu up while I'm flipping through them because it will mess up the color reading, but I just want to show you where I'm going. So let me go back to the base point. We're going to start with standard, and let me go back to turning off the menu. Turning off the menu here, and go to HDMI record output, turn off the display put. Okay, so now all you're seeing is that clean picture. Now let's go back to this. And now, even though you're just gonna have to trust me as I'm walking through it, I'm gonna go back into the camera, go up to the settings, go to photo style standard. And now watch this chart shift as I go from standard to vivid. So you see everything got more saturated. And I go to natural, pulls it back a little bit, and the red point, look at the red point especially between vivid and natural, how that's shifting. So it's not just pulling back that saturation, it's also shifting a little bit. So these different color profiles are mapping yellow, green, blue, and so on to different places on the vector scope. Really cool, right? So let's go back to get the right camera up. And so there's natural, monochrome, really cool to see what happens in monochrome. All the color's gone, so everything just collapses back to the beginning, right? Because there is no color. All right, then there's scenery, and there's, some of them are very subtle changes. There's portrait, and then the custom ones that we have. And then if you have the Vlog update, you get to one called Like 709. Now, Like 709 is a total base color standard for broadcast, and 709 should be exactly accurate, right? In a perfect world, 709 is perfectly red, green, blue, cyan, magenta, yellow are exactly on point. you'll notice that the GH5 one is not 709, it's like 709. So it is a color profile that is close to 709, but it's not exact. I don't know why it's not exact. I don't know if this is a technical limitation or what, but it's not. It's just that's what you get, like 709. Important to know. So now we got like 709. So my objective here is to get the colors as accurate as possible. So how much control do I have in camera versus what I'm gonna have to fix in post later? Let's go back to the view, and we're on like 709. I'm gonna go down to saturation and bring this way up just to make those arms bigger. This is not how I wanna shoot it, it's just to make the arms bigger. And then I go down to hue, and hue rotate, and this is the same control that I had when I was looking at the Blackmagic camera through the ATEM software control. We were looking at that the other day on the other video. Same exact thing. As I rotate the hue on here, we're literally spinning that color wheel. Excuse me. So we can go, all right, let's get yellow, missed it. Let's go back. There, yellow is spot on. Green is spot on. I'd say cyan is ever so slightly towards blue. Blue is definitely leaning towards cyan. Magenta is pretty spot on, and red is definitely leaning towards yellow. Okay, well, we can rotate that and say, you know what, my red, and hence the flesh tones is more important. Remember, this is flesh tones. Unfortunately, this vector scope doesn't have a line for flesh tones. A lot of vector scopes you look at will actually have another line in there that says this is where flesh tones are. And if you watch that video from Dave Dugdale, then you will see a lot of really stuff in color correction about taking a face that is not super smooth. He actually uses some examples where he takes photos of stylized, retouched, perfect, beautiful, made up makeup girls for like makeup ads, and you look at on the vector scope, and the flesh tone is like really, the range is really narrow. Then he takes a picture of himself, no makeup, splotchy skin, little red nose, and so on, and you really see the wave and the bump in there. And it's really interesting to see, even in color correction, how you can take those and collapse it down and make the skin tone look more even. Fascinating stuff. You got to watch this video. Anyway, back to this. So that's where the flesh tone is. So some scopes have a line for flesh tone. I don't know why this one doesn't. So let's go back to here, and I'm going back to rotating. So I can rotate this towards whatever direction do I want. Do I want my, I mean, that's, nothing's accurate there. Well, I guess the blue is pretty much spot on there. But the default position, I would say, for my money, I would probably go, I'm looking right now, I'm not looking at the camera, I'm looking at the vector scope. I would probably go there. I'm kind of splitting the difference. And right now, this is +1 on the hue rotation wheel on the camera. So if I'm going for that as accurate as possible, that's probably where I'd shoot. Interesting, right? It's all personal preference. You can play with it however you like, but that's going to give you something that is showing up as the most natural. Go figure. I wonder, actually, you know, I haven't tried. What if I go into Vlog? What happens there? Let me just see. Oh, this is a different body. I don't have the Vlog upgrade on this body. Oh, so the Light 709, you don't have to have the Vlog upgrade. Okay, I lied to you about that, because this does not have it. Yeah, this isn't the body that has it. Oh, well. So the Light 709 you do have. Sorry, I wonder why I thought that came with it. Must be something else that it comes with. There are two profiles. Anyway, so that's that. What do you think? Is that kind of cool? I think it's fascinating. I really do. Oh, there's one more thing I want to share in here. Okay, so let me go back to color. Remember everything that I planned for today. Back to a color view. Let's go back to, we're going to go to that like 709. Okay, so we're looking at this again. So there's our like 709. Notice the middle point here. There's this, everything meets, right? And there's a crosshair. I know it's really hard to see. There's a crosshair in there. That crosshair is, think of it like white balance. If you have all the colors meeting perfectly in the middle, that is an accurate white balance. So, I haven't tried this. Hold on, if I switch this to the white one. Yeah, so switch this to the white one, go back to this view. There we go. So you see, I'm just looking at the white card. I'm not looking at the colors. Let's get that just center right there so everything is in there. Actually, zoom in a little bit more so we really are filling the screen. There we go, perfect. And you can see that's all we're looking at. Well, is it really accurate? I don't know. I can't really, I can't really tell. So watch this. I can go in here and say, zoom into this. And now it's zoomed into that crosshair. It's showing, you know what, I'm going to adjust the exposure on this camera a little bit because that is, I want to make that a little bit easier to see. Oops, wrong button. Where's my, let's stop the aperture down a little bit. So I'm really underexposing the camera you're looking at in the hopes that you'll be able to see that crosshair a little bit better. Let's see here. I think it's, yeah, you can see that now. Okay, good. So now you can see the crosshair on there. So all I did was I just went and adjusted the exposure on the camera that's pointing at that screen there. Okay, so now we're zoomed into that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in and change white balance settings. So again, you're not going to be able to see the white balance preset that I'm choosing because I can't have that display going out because it messes with the readout. But again, just trust me on this. So I'm going to go into white balance settings, and I'm in my custom one right now. Let's just do this here. I'll just go into Kelvin, and I'll start changing it. So there's 10,000 degrees Kelvin, and as I bring this down, you can see that moving and see the points kind of joining and spreading off again as those white balances don't match. So we want to find, where's the perfect one? Okay, so there's degrees Kelvin. That's as close as I'm getting, but it's not lined up, right? The crosshair and the dot are off. So I'm going to hit set and then go into that color adjustment tool that I showed you before. The little, I'll show it to you again in case you're wondering what the heck I'm talking about. And I can spread this around even more and try and get that super accurately lined up. And so, let me find the position. I'm using the joystick on the camera to move this around. I'd say that's it, right? Go up a little. There we go. I think it's as accurate as we're going to get. What I was just doing was moving that little chart around. So moving that chart around with degrees Kelvin in this lighting environment allows me to position that perfectly centered, and now I've got that white balance, color balance. Isn't that cool? I find all this stuff fascinating. So, like I told you, variety show. That's where we're at today. That's the kind of stuff I want to show you. I'm learning a lot of this. I am really having fun experimenting with this and starting to understand more behind it, and I just want to share this experience with you guys and seeing what is happening in there. So hope that was interesting to you. Where are we on time? I'm not going to do the thing with the NAR box today. We'll do that another day. We're pushing a long show already. So any other questions or comments? I see there's lots of stuff showing up on the screen on here. We're talking about the IRE and what that was. Let's see if I missed anything earlier. Again, we'll put a link to that pop-up card. Yeah. Oh, Dave Del Studio, you're the one saying that you liked the Kelvin values. Yep. What is that white balance icon that looks like a house? That was the shade. It's okay. Let me pull that back up again. That white balance icon looks like a house is shade. It's a house, but if you look closely, there's a house and then there's shade next. I don't know who comes up with these icons. Let me put this back on to put the info screen on, and there we go. So if we bring this back up and I go into white balance, Brent is asking about this one there. So see, it's a house, but then there's that little triangle next to it. That's supposed to be shade. So you've got full sun, cloudy day, shade, tungsten, strobe, and then your custom ones. So that's what that is. Pardon me. All right, I think that's it. Any other? Here we go. Shiva Kumar says, if you had to do this white balance setting on a GH4 and don't have an external monitor with scopes on it, how would you use the custom grid to get accurate white balance? Okay, so if you don't have this, if you don't have the scopes on here, the best accurate white balance is going to be just going into that custom white balance setting and pointing it at something known neutral. The more controlled known neutral you can get, the better. So that's why this is important. This, it closes, so you keep the sun off of it. You even see these things have, well, that one doesn't. This one has there we go, a little quality, pull this up here, a little thing on here. You're supposed to write down the date when you got it. And these things are only supposed to be good for 1 to 2 years, depending on how much you use it, how much sun and external light it gets. And you always want to close it when you're not using it to keep that light off of there. So mine is definitely pushing on age on there, but I really don't use them that much, so I think I'm okay. But yeah, off of that, if you don't have that, if you don't have one of these, a white piece of paper, just make sure it's not in full sunlight with a massively overexposed image, and you should be fine. So just get as neutral of a thing as you possibly can, do your custom white balance, and you're good to go. I have even done it, excuse me, I've even done it, like, let's say I was shooting a party once. I think I probably told this story before, but I was shooting a party, and I had the camera in auto white balance, it's doing great, and so, daylight, whatever. And then as the sun started going down, I wasn't liking, and this is before I was shooting, actually I think it was with an Olympus camera. Anyways, before I was shooting with the Lumix, I wasn't really keen on the auto white balance settings that I was getting. And so there was this white building. We were outdoors at someone's house, and it was like there's a pool building or whatever. Anyway, a white building. And I go, I'm going to start using that as my white balance. And every like few minutes, I would just walk by the building, point it at it, go snap, and get a new custom white balance, and then keep working the party. And it worked out really, really well. The whole back area was all in the shade, so the light was changing, but consistently throughout. Worked out really nicely. I've used sidewalks in a pinch. If you go out into the streets at night and you've got that god-awful sodium halide vapor, nasty yellow light shining on your street, put your camera into custom white balance, point it at the sidewalk, which is not going to be perfectly neutral gray, but it's pretty good. Get a white balance off of that, you're going to be pretty close, right? You can do things like that. Just find something that's around you and go for it like that. Burnstick says, so using a neutral card, this helps the camera set the white balance based on ambient light. Correct. That's the whole point. White balance is based off of ambient light. If I turn on my overhead light here, for example, so I've got LEDs on here that turned out, they're supposed to be daylight, but it turns out they're closer to 4800. If I turn on this overhead fluorescence, they're, I don't know what color temperature, but they're hideous. The light here will change. Let's just do it. Here. Oh, this is great. I love this stuff. Okay, here's what we're going to do. If this fly doesn't drive me crazy first. Let me get this thing back. Ryan's got a fly out there bugging him too. Tis the season. Okay, this stuff is fun. Let's see here. I'm going to just do a custom white balance off this card now. Yeah, okay, so let's go back into here. Look at this view, let's zoom into that. And I'm going to white balance, not automatic, select white set, boom. Okay, so there's custom white balance for this. We zoom back out on this and you can see, let's go to the colors. So you can see all the pretty colors. Okay, so keep a snapshot. Here, if you're watching this, well, there's a clever thing to say. If you're actually watching this right now, take a screenshot. We go back to this, and I'll give you a moment to do it. Go back to this, take a screenshot. Oh, wait, let me turn off the menu system. Hold on, don't do it yet. Let me turn off the menu. And focus it, Ryan's telling me. All right, okay, and let's just go to autofocus, that's fine. Okay, take a screenshot of that, and give me a moment. I am going to, you everybody get the screenshot? You got it? 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, that's all you got. Okay, now I'm turning on the overhead lighting in here, which you should see on there just shifted the colors. Now you look at me and the colors are definitely shifted, right? This is like, it's all gone wonky, bad, and ugly. Okay, hopefully you got that screenshot of the color thing. If not, too late. Now, with this extra light on here, I'm gonna go back to the white, custom white balance card here. Let's go back to this view and let's focus that. I'm gonna go into white balance. I'm gonna save, so number 4 is what I had before. Let's go to 3, set that. So there it is off of 3. So now just here, we can see the difference between 3 and 4. Can you see that color shift in there? It's subtle, but a color shift in there. So now, let's go back to the color view, which is, where we're really probably gonna see this show up. So there is custom white balance 3, so that's the accurate one that's for this now mixed lighting. There's if I go to the other one that I used before. So see the difference in there? That's a big difference. When you're looking at the colors, that's a big difference in the shift because I have this overhead light on. Ryan, can you come in and turn it off so they can see how it affects me on my face as they turn it off when the light changes? Okay, so the light's on, and there we go. Custom white. Go ahead and flip it back on again. Light goes on, light goes off. Pretty neat, right? Thank you. So that's why the ambient light, that's what you're measuring with the white balance, is the ambient light. Oh, Ryan, there's a box sitting. Oh, he's probably can't hear me yet. Ryan, can you hear me? Are you back on the ears? Ryan, can you hear me? Ryan, can you hear? Okay, he'll get to me eventually. The whole ambient thing, that's what's the important part of it. There's a box. Oh, you found it. Yeah, I don't need it here. You don't need it? I don't need these here. You can take those. Thank you. Mm-hmm. It's all about measuring the ambient light. That is what the white balance is. If you had perfect daylight, whatever, then it should be, well, even perfect daylight, I mean, there's a range of like 5,000 to 6,000, somewhere in there. 5,500 is usually considered daylight, but somewhere in there is daylight. It's going to depend on refraction from the sky and the time of day, the sun's higher or lower, part of the world you're in, and then reflections from around you. If you're if you got a red wall next to you, that is going to affect your white balance. When you're looking at your lighting, if you look at my lights here, there's 3 LED lights. One of them is slightly different white balance than the other one. Great, thanks. Inconsistency in manufacturing. But they're cheap lights. But that's okay because I do a custom white balance setting on me and everything falls back into place. So that's how that works. Birdstick says, you definitely like it better without the overhead light. With it on, it feels like local news. Without, we're having a conversation together. Well, that was the objective of setting this up, to feel very natural and nice and soft, and nice soft lighting. I love this lighting setup. It's very nice. Okay, so that's that. Other comments here, and then I'm going to show you what's in this box. And then we're really going to get out of here. Shiva Kumar says, thanks for that, but all white paper are not true white. No, absolutely. That's why if you want true, you got to buy something like this. That's going to give you the most accurate. But in a pinch, you can use white paper and it'll at least be close. I was thinking of the Luma device, but holding back after seeing the issues you faced with the exposure and white balance shift. I know, it's a shame. This might work perfectly for exposure. I don't know. And did I do an exposure test? I don't even remember. But that's not why I bought it. I bought this for one thing, color balance. And it just, unfortunately, it's not cutting it for me. So, oh well. Brent says, I have a question. I have 2 GH5s I use almost only for video. I can't figure out why the on-screen info is displayed differently on each camera. Oh, you have a lot of control over that. If you go into, let me think, where is that? Monitor display, is that it? No, that's the brightness and colors. Do me a favor, post that in a comment. I don't remember where that is, but you can totally customize what's on there. Even just, and it might just be this simple, touching the display button cycles through a variety of views. You can have a video-centric view and then a non-video-centric view. It's not called video-centric, but it's like the video display mode and the non-video display mode. And then hitting that display button cycles through them. So check that out. Maybe that's what you're running into. Shiva Kumar says, have you tried those white balance caps called Expo Disc? Aha. I have even seen one by a person called Peter Gregg. Yeah, Peter Gregg. I actually own an Expo disc. I have never, ever used it. I've had it for like 10 years, 15 years, and never really gotten around to using it. But what I'm going to show you here is supposed to be better than an Expo disc. Birdstick's definitely like it better. Oh, we already talked about that. Okay. All right, so here, this is what came here. So after all this white balance, these white balance posts, somebody on YouTube by the name of Reynold, I believe is his name, reached out on YouTube and said, the only accurate white balance tool is X. And I said, okay, that's quite a claim. Do you represent the company by chance? Why, yes, he does. I said, great, send me some stuff and I'll show it on the air. And so he did. It arrived yesterday. We're going to look at this stuff. I'm making zero claims as to how good this stuff is because I haven't tried it yet. But let's start the big one. This is a directivity white balance filter. You put this, kind of like the Expo disc, but it works differently apparently. Put this over your camera and you get a white balance, an accurate, apparently, white balance measurement. Interesting. Excited to play with that. This is for your DSLR or DSLM. But then there's these guys for your iPhone or your smartphone, whatever. This one's called Reynold. Oh, that's the company. Sorry, this one's called Pipe. This one's called Telus Pro. You've got the Spring and the Volcano. No idea what the differences are. But these are all little tiny things that are designed to, you put this over your iPhone and you get a totally custom white balance setting. I am going to play with this, figure it out, and I'll let you know what I think. But thank you very much, Reynold, for sending these out to me. I am looking forward to experimenting with this, and hopefully it's better than this, because he says that it is. He says, he makes some claim like it is the most accurate in the world way to get your white balance. It's quite a claim. We're going to find out. All right, guys. That's it. Let's get out of here. If you, you know the routine, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. If you like the video, like it. If you don't like it, well, you've tuned out by now, so it doesn't matter. And buy my GH5 training, because, you know, I've got to support my habit of buying stupid things like iPhone 10s and getting them 2 or 3 weeks later than everybody else gets them. So if you have a GH5, you don't have the training, gh5training.com, do go check that guy out. Next week, I'm going to be starting a whole new live training series on Lightroom CC, the new one. We're going to start with a big overview, which means it's time for me to start playing with it and figure out what the heck this thing is all about. And we just finished the Polar training. If you haven't seen that yet, the Polar training was a lot of fun. Head to photoapps.expert/live and you will see this. The Polar workflow was yesterday. A lot of fun. It was a fun little class, so do check that thing out. And other than that, we're out of here. Take care of yourselves. Have a fabulous weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.